Welcome to Beyond the Closing Table. I'm your host, Michael Martin, and I'm here to interview top producing real estate agents, top producing loan officers, and successful business owners. Very excited today to have Brian Sytsma here with me with Northwestern Mutual. Brian and I have the opportunity to meet through a client of mine a few months ago, maybe even 6 or 8 months ago. And he has been fantastic to get to learn more about, and I'm excited to be able to share what he has to say today. So thanks so much for joining us, Brian.
Of course. Excited to be here, Michael.
Yeah, thanks so much. So obviously you're wearing an NC State shirt here today. So clearly, we'll jump into, of course, how you moved here eventually. I'm guessing it's probably has something to do with that red shirt you got on.
Yeah.
But let's kind of start off. I was recently on your website, the Northwestern Mutual website, and there was a really cool video on there, and it told a really amazing story. And for those that haven't gone there yet, I'd love for you to tell me a little bit about kind of your grandparents and the story of kind of maybe even how you got into doing what you're doing now.
Yeah. No, I appreciate you asking about that too, because it was something that, admittedly, even when we posted it, was somewhat of a scary, like being super vulnerable as a family, sharing what you're going through. But as I've talked to so many, even just immigrant families in general, it's actually like wow, like we've gone through something similar and have felt these similar pieces that you guys have gone through too. But so high level, my grandparents came from Ellis Island back in, I think, like the 1950s or 60s from Greece on their end.
Wow.
And so to this day, my grandmother's birth certificate is still not even right. For anybody that has experienced that, you'll know exactly what I mean in that world. But they came with the American dream, right? No money, no idea what they're doing, just trying to figure out and make it. And so they moved to a small area in Indiana, so about 30 minutes south of Chicago. And my grandfather started a company. So essentially what he would do is he would harvest flowers. He would bring them to Chicago or various places, deliver them, families, businesses, essentially whoever would buy.
So he's a florist.
Yes. Yeah. And it got to be a pretty big company. I mean, even when we were growing up, there was just always tons and tons of people that were working on the fields with him. And he actually ended up serving former President Ronald Reagan as one of his clients.
How about that? Cool. That's pretty wild. So did he start buying land, or did he lease the land? How did he do that?
Yeah. So everything was bought. It was kind of the concept of small house, really, really huge land. So expenses were really, really small, great savers, and really just focused on, hey, I'm going to work a ton of hours because I know how to do that. And then I'm going to find as many people that'll buy my products as I possibly can.
Wow.
And so they were able to amass a lot, did really well, saved a lot of money, but especially on the financial side, didn't really have people constantly educating them of like what's out there, what to do, especially for immigrant families. It's a lot of real estate, owning things that you can touch, and cash. And that
but
was
he
very
did
much
buy
that.
stocks, according to the video, right? So
yeah.
there was an interesting story about the ledgers that were found, right?
Yeah. So I can't share like the exact stocks that was bought, but it was a very simple portfolio, and it was like literally just a couple of companies.
Blue chip type stocks, probably.
Stuff that you hear of day to day because he'd see it in the news, or he'd have somebody that'd bring it up, and that was what he bought. So he only bought and did things that he knew, which was land, cash, and just some individual stocks, but it's very basic, very simple, wasn't constantly, engaging.
It's what Warren Buffett really talks about too, right? Is buy stocks in companies you actually utilize their products on a regular basis.
Yep.
It's pretty interesting. I'm actually just started reading the book 1929 that came out on Tuesday.
No kidding.
Have you heard about it yet?
I have not.
I'm all of a sudden going to be like totally dropping. I can't remember the guy's name. It's one of the CNBC guys that's in there in the morning. Oh my gosh, can't believe I can't think of his name. But he dropped this book, 1929, and it's a pretty thick book. I'm doing the Audible version. I always say I have to have people read to me. But pretty interesting story to hear about how all of the Great Depression started. Of course, this guy's fear is we may be headed back into a 100-year cycle here. So anyway, get back to Grandpa and Grandma.
Yeah, no. So I mean, super cool read. I'll have to check that out myself on my side. But when it comes to grandparents, like everything worked when it worked, and grandfather was working. But where everything really fell apart was he got really sick. So worked for many years, retired, and it was almost like the light bulb shut out. right? Dementia, Alzheimer's, very quickly, very
Like
aggressive,
shortly after he retired.
very
And
shortly.
he didn't retire for that reason. He just
Mm-mm.
retired, and then that happened.
Yep. Yeah. So it's a thing that I've heard actually many families have gone through, where I don't know if there was maybe like a loss of purpose or just a loss of intentionality of what he was doing, but everything changed very quickly. And for anybody that's gone through dementia and Alzheimer's with a family member, it's not just traumatic financially, it's very traumatic emotionally. Because the whole family is involved taking care of you. So it's very common. Like I'd come home from school, be changing diapers, like doing things that like a 10-year-old kid should not be doing.
Wow.
Right. And so during that time, my grandmother was just thrown all the stuff and is like, figure it out.
Mm-hmm.
And she barely knows English. So English is super broken, doesn't know what stocks, investments, life insurance, like any of that stuff even is. And here you go. Figure all this stuff out, figure out where it is. And I mean, there's so many
He was
stories.
still alive, but not really be able to resource.
Yep.
Right.
Yeah. It's not like she can ask him, you know, hey, where's this thing is, where's this thing? We found years after he had passed away, we were finding accounts that we didn't even know existed.
Wow.
Right. And so during that time, it kind of forced our family into this crisis of what do we do? Like, we have to figure this out. And so we actually started interviewing a team, just so happened to also be through the Northwestern Mutual Network. And the thing for us that really stuck out was not the money conversations, because that stuff's all stuff you can learn, Google, YouTube, like there's so many good resources out there. It was just the above and beyond, getting to know us, building trust, rapport, especially for somebody that has never experienced that kind of relationship. Starting in your 70s, that's a really hard relationship to build.
Yeah.
And so they actually drove over 2 hours. They brought bunk cake to our house, spent like the whole day with us, just getting to know us as a family and trying to figure out what was important to us.
How old were you at this point?
I don't know the exact age. I was definitely in like early teens though.
Okay. So 14, 15,
somewhere
like
in that range.
But you were actually part of this,
Yeah.
being involved?
Yeah. So I mean, I remember it like it was yesterday, and their names are Rich and Joe.
Mhm.
Like, you know, even to this day, like they're kind of
they're on the video on your website.
part of the family,
Yeah.
right? You know, they're our people. And that really meant a lot, because it showed that, hey, they were here for us and they weren't just here for our money.
Yeah.
And literally the moment they left the house, my grandmother's like, I want to work with them. There was no more discussion. We don't need to talk about fees or anything else. It's, hey, these are our people. And that's the kind of relationship that I think everybody should have.
Yeah.
With not just their financial planner, but just people in their networks, where you can truly lean in, be vulnerable, have good conversations, bad conversations. And not everybody's going to get a 2.5 hour drive to visit you, right? That's obviously a way above and beyond move, but at the time, it's what she really needed.
Yeah.
And so that's ultimately what we.
How did you guys find someone from? I think it was Chicago, right?
Yeah, so it was a really simple conversation. Like, my dad was at, I think, like a bar with a buddy of his, and he's like, hey, I've been working with this guy Rich for a while. I really like him. I can't remember if Rich was there with him or not. He's like, yeah, I've been thinking about, you know, talking to somebody about my own stuff. He was a CFO of a large construction company up in Chicago.
Okay.
Yeah. And he's like, but my mother-in-law really needs help. Like, we need somebody. And so, you know, my dad's always been kind of like the mediator of transforming English to my grandmother, so she can understand what's going on.
So your dad speaks Greece?
He does not speak Greek.
Greece.
But he was around the family so much and had built such a good trusted rapport with my grandmother that he was able to be almost like a pseudo power of attorney, would probably be the best way to describe it.
Yeah.
Especially since he is pretty financially literate himself. So that was a really important relationship to build. And it's why I built the practice I did, because for this type of business, I think it goes beyond just building a relationship with an advisor. Like, you have to build a relationship with somebody that you like you're genuinely excited to see them. This person's always on top of what's new, what are the trends, what works. But also that trust is at a point where they can be really vulnerable with you and give you advice beyond what just you see online, right? It's not just put money in your 401k or put money in your Roth IRA or these types of accounts. It's, hey, I know you, I know how you think, I know how you feel about money. And because of the way you think and feel, this is what you should do. Even if it's a little bit unorthodox, it's what's going to work for you. And I think that's what's helped us build deeper relationship, is just knowing what that experience was like for our family. Because if you look at somebody like my grandmother's financial plan, you know, an advisor would look at that and be like, there's so many things I would change. It's what makes sense for her.
Sure.
It's what she's comfortable with. And if she feels great about what her money's doing, that's all that really matters at the end of the day. Not the, what's you're supposed to do would be the best description of that.
Yeah. That's interesting. I think it's really important to ask lots of questions, right? Whether you're a financial advisor, mortgage lender, real estate agent, whatever, any business owner, and you're dealing with clients, it's asking lots of questions so they feel heard ultimately, right? That's what's so important versus being talked at. And I think so many times, especially in the financial planning, or probably more so than most of the others, people are so intimidated because they don't understand. That's why they need you to begin with. And they need someone that really understands them. And then they're going to be committed, just like that situation worked out with your grandmother.
Well, I think that thought even is validated though, because I mean, you'll hear horror stories of things online, or a parent will say like, you don't need an advisor, or don't trust that person. Everything they're telling you is they're just looking for a commission and fees and all that. And some of that's true, like,
without a doubt.
There's definitely bad apples, and I don't think that's in most industries. But I think if you find somebody that can truly listen to understand versus listening to respond, it is a dramatically different relationship, where even if it doesn't work out and we don't fit, they still had a great experience.
Sure.
They still really liked the advice they were being given. They just chose not to pay for it, and that's okay.
Yeah.
Like, not everybody wants to pay for somebody to manage their money or to talk about their finances, but you at least want to have trusted people that you can ask questions to, that you don't feel judged. You do that too.
Yeah. Appreciate you sharing that. I think that's very important. So you grew up in Indiana, you just mentioned, and somehow made it here to Raleigh, North Carolina.
Yeah.
Let's talk about how you got here, and then maybe why you're still here.
Yeah. So definitely not as cool of a story as my grandparents, but so growing up, I'd come to North Carolina a couple of times, whether it was on just personal trips or vacation with family, and just something about it just felt different. For anybody that has grown up in Indiana is very flat, very blue collar. It's kind of mean and rough. Like, you have your friend groups, and if you're not in the group, you're never going to get in the group. It's kind of the way that works. And just every time I came to North Carolina, I just felt very lively, very young, very technology oriented. I'm like, man, there's so many like boxes are getting checked. The weather is way better. And so I actually, when I was in high school, only applied to North Carolina colleges. I didn't know anything about any of them. It's like NC State, UNC, Charlotte, whatever schools that had North Carolina in the name, like that was who I was applying to. And I got into NC State. I didn't know much about them other than they had D1 sports, and that I liked the color red, which is why I was wearing the shirt here too. And so that was it for me. Like, there wasn't a whole lot else to it. I'm like, I'll figure out a major that I can attribute to my career, which I studied entrepreneurship, for this particular business. And then I met my wife the first day of orientation. So, you meet your wife the first day. We're 10 years in now, and it was meant to be.
Wow,
so
that's pretty cool.
That's a good reason to stay.
So then you obviously graduated and decided to stick around here specifically.
Yeah.
So I'm guessing you didn't come to Raleigh when you were visiting North Carolina. You probably must have been going to the beach or the mountains or something.
No, I mean, we went to Raleigh, Wilmington, and I think Charlotte. So actually a good diversity amongst it, and it gave me, if anything, it gave me more conviction knowing that there's so much opportunity here. Like, living in Raleigh, for everybody that does live in Raleigh, we know this. You have every sports team you could possibly want locally. You have great restaurants. You have great companies that are here. It's a budding area. A bunch of people are moving here. You got the beach like an hour away. You got Charlotte 2 hours away if you want to go to the city. You got the mountains. I'm like, what else do you not have here?
Yeah.
It's kind of that concept of the pastures sometimes aren't always greener on the other side. And that's how I've always felt with living in North Carolina. I've just really enjoyed the area, but did get a chance to see a good bit of it before we even came here too.
Okay, very good. Yeah, I grew up in Alexandria, Virginia.
Very cool.
Right outside of DC, and my folks moved to Sunset Beach, North Carolina when I was 16. And so big, culture shock going from Fairfax County, Virginia, to Brunswick County, North Carolina. But probably the best thing that's ever happened to my brother and I. So we're very grateful for that move. Living at the beach when you're 16 is not horrible either. So,
well, I was about to say, living at the beach at 16 is a good time to be hanging out and parties and all that kind of stuff too. So certainly didn't get that experience in Indiana. Usually winters were -10, and I'll never forget a story of my wife the first time she came to Indiana.
Where's she from?
She's from Charlotte.
Okay.
On her side, and the first winter we were there, She was so excited. She had her North Carolina coat on. And she's like, we're going to go play in the snow because we had a white Christmas. And I'm just laughing because it's one of those, like, you just got to let the, let them make the mistake. And she went outside and she was maybe out there for like 1 minute. And she comes sprinting back in. This is terrible. How do you guys live here? So we got her a winter jacket after that so that she could actually function and not, be frostbitten within 5 minutes. But it was quite a change from the beach life or things that she was used to.
Layering is key in those environments for sure. So,
yeah,
cool. So you launched your career in financial advising, financial planning in 2019.
Yeah.
And I'm guessing that's shortly after you graduated.
So it was actually while I was still in school.
Okay.
Yeah. So the way the Northwestern Mutual does it, everybody has different ways they can get in. I chose to do the internship program. But their internship's a little bit more unique than most internships. Like, you're jumping in day one and you are doing the career. So you're meeting with clients, you're bringing in prospective folks, so you're calling folks.
You're obviously getting licensed before you do the
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. You're getting your licenses, you're learning a ton on the spot, but you're also learning from veteran teams that have been doing this for 30 or 40 years. And so early on, my vision, my goal was get all my designations, get all my licenses, learn the knowledge as much as I can, but offset a lot of the work to partners that I know are way better at this job than me. So there's a lot of put your pride aside, right? Make sure you're doing what's best for families, because as a 21-year-old kid, like, I don't know enough about finances at that point to be a perfect advisor for somebody. And so for the first, I think like 2 years of my career, I don't know if I took a single meeting by myself. It was all, I want to soak in as much as I can so that when I am doing this on my own and I take the training wheels off, I'm ready.
So did you get to join into their meetings with their clients as well?
No. So it was all, we didn't choose to do that, not because it wasn't an option. It was always offered. We actually always preferred to go do the work, go find the people ourselves, and bring a prospect to a particular advisor. And for us, it was almost a sense of proving yourself to that advisor. Like, hey, I can go out and I can find business. I can find people that really want to do our work, which actually raises your level of value amongst other advisors and other partners, because you're bringing them revenue and a potential client that they want to work with too.
So does that client become yours or theirs?
So that part depends long term. So the way that I did it initially was, it was just a joint client. We're basically all on the same team together, even though we're not under the same particular payroll and contract. It's, I have my Northwestern team, you have your Northwestern team, but because we're both in Northwestern, we can work together and it's the same cost for the client. Now that I've gotten more veteran and tenured, I've had plenty of conversations with partners where it's, hey, maybe you're a better fit for them long term, maybe I'm a better fit. So we've certainly had conversations for some folks, depending on the size of the client, of like buyout strategies of, hey, I'll give you X amount of revenue for the next couple of years if I can take over the client 100%. And sometimes it's actually the opposite way. It's like, hey, Brian, like, this isn't a client that is in our target market anymore. Like, why don't you just take it and run with it? And so I've seen a lot of generosity in that world too, on both ends, just to make sure that the client's got the best experience, because maybe they don't fit well with me personality wise, and they fit really, really well with the person I brought them to. Well, I don't want to be a selfish advisor and just take that client for the money. It's, hey, you're clearly doing a much better job to connect with them than I could. Why don't you just go run with the relationship, and that gives me time back to go find some other people that might fit the bill better for me.
Yeah. Well, that's pretty, I think pretty amazing, because I think a lot of people have a hard time giving up a client.
Yeah.
And so, but I think ultimately, if your goal is really to serve the client at the highest level, you just have to realize that I'm not the best fit, or that other person's not.
I think it's even beyond that, right? Because you always got to keep the client first of what's going to give them the best experience. But beyond that is, we're business owners. We're not salespeople, right? And I think, especially in financial planning, there's advisors that have a really hard time differentiating that, because it's the concept of like, you eat what you kill, and you're bringing in as many clients as you possibly can. And all of a sudden you look up and you're like, I can't serve all these people. And so I think it's just way better experience for everybody when you're having those transparent conversations with clients saying, hey, I don't want to increase a fee on you that's unnecessary. So if you want to keep working with us, here's what it can look like. If you'd like us to connect with somebody else, that's fine. But also, as you're doing that, it provides you the capacity to scale as a business owner. Because what a lot of people do is they plateau, especially around year 4 or 5, and then revenue and experiences actually start to go this way. because they onboarded a bunch of people that they can't serve and that aren't the right clients. And so I think it's actually great for all parties, especially as a business owner, that you got to be willing to let go.
Yeah.
Because you can only add if there's something else that you're willing to take away.
Yeah. Yeah. Good for you. Again, I think that's not easy for everyone to learn, or it takes a lot longer than you've picked that up. For us, it's very important when we're meeting with a client, asking them the right questions and, asking them what's most important to them. And, ultimately we're looking for clients that want to be served at a very high level, make the client experience as simple as possible.
Yeah.
We're going to be very competitive from a cost perspective, but somebody that's looking for the cheapest, lowest possible thing out there, we're just not.
Just may not be the fit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
For what we do. I just wanted to take a quick second and say thank you so much for watching our podcast so far. If you do me a huge favor before you forget about it, to like, subscribe, and if you would just leave a quick comment about what you think of the podcast. And if you want to share it with your friends, I'd love that too. Thanks again so much. We'll finish up right now. Let's talk about, every successful business owner, but certainly I'm sure advisor in your world kind of has their first kind of uh-oh moment. Like what kind of, what would you say some of the, maybe that challenge or I hate to say mistake, but we all make mistakes. Like
Sure.
give me an example, or us an example of something maybe you got an opportunity to learn from.
So I'd say the number one moment for me, and for anybody that's known me personally, I've shared the story so many times, but it was actually during 2020. So obviously we're all going through COVID, right? COVID can really, for many people, it changed how we thought emotionally about everything in life. And so at this point I was maybe, I don't know, year and a half into my business, doing okay, but not doing like fantastic. And one of my mentors, his name's Mike Condry, sat me down. I remember like it was yesterday. We were on a porch in Pinehurst. For everybody that's golfed in Pinehurst, obviously that's a good time. And it's like 12 o'clock at night. We both got a beer in hand. And he looked at me and started cursing at me. Obviously I won't say those words on this podcast. But a nutshell was like, you were the most overly talented, underperforming person I've ever met. And that was like a real ego hit for me, because I felt like I was doing okay. Like I'm comparing myself to my peers, like all the things you're not supposed to do. I'm like, all right, well, I'm doing better than these people, so I'm fine. And so he really challenged me to define what I wanted out of this business, what I wanted out of my life, answers that I didn't know as a young individual. And then on top of that, to fully commit. So I think that's the challenge with any business owner, is in those first couple of years, like you're getting kicked in the teeth a lot, and a lot of doubt creeps in of like, am I doing the right thing? Should I, go get a salary job? Should I change businesses? Like I'm doing all this stuff wrong. And sometimes you just need more time. Like you need to make more mistakes so that you can learn and ultimately build better processes.
It sounds like maybe sometimes be more committed.
Exactly. And so that day I called my wife. At the time we were dating. And we sat down and we made a plan. And I can't remember if it was 2 years or 3 years. We said, hey, we're going to give this amount of time, and that's it. And an actual deadline. We set the date, put it in the calendar, and said, if we are not successful during this time, I'm never doing this again. It's over. But it is a full commitment, meaning no side hustles, no other stuff, no distractions. Work as much as you need to that's necessary to make this business work, and let's go. And the next 6 months after that, I think we like double or triple revenue. It all was a mindset shift. It was crazy to think how much of that was just in here, because clients can feel that.
Sure.
I truly feel that in any business, a client can feel if you're kind of sort of in it. To me, like you have to fully lean in, and like you are willing to die on the sword for a client you're working with, not just in finance, but accounting, business, whatever. Because a client can feel that, wow, like this person's not only going to be here 30 years from now, which is a nice asset being 28, of knowing that you can work with somebody for a really, really long time. But on top of that, they know that you are fully committed to being the best advisor you possibly can. And I know everybody wants to say that, but it's another thing to actually go out and do the actions towards it, right? Are you going to put in those extra hours when other people are asleep? Are you going to get up at 4 or 5 in the morning when everybody else is getting up at 8? Struggling through traffic, right? Are you going to take 20 meetings when you otherwise would normally be told to take 15 meetings a week, right? Not saying that everybody has to do that, but as a business owner, if you're going to be truly committed to your craft, you need to be willing to be different. And being different's 99% of the battle in my mind.
Yeah. So you said something there that made me wonder something, because I've noticed a pattern in communication with you.
Yeah.
So what does a day look like for you?
Uh,
Maybe pre-kid and
yeah,
after
I was
kid.
about to say currently mayhem with a 4 month old,
Yes.
but pre-child. So I actually think there was two different phases of it. So early on in the early parts of the business, it was there is no such thing as work-life balance early in making a business. Let me just be very clear and say
Absolutely not. Yep.
it was 90-hour weeks, doing anything possible to make it early on. So calling everybody, meeting everybody. I mean, shoot, there would be weeks we'd have 35 meetings. Half of them were probably complete wastes of time, not from the client's perspective, because we shouldn't have scheduled a meeting.
Yeah.
Right. There was nothing to actually talk about. And nowadays, I actually completely shifted my hours. So I wake up around 4 or 5. Big voice text guy, as you got a chance to see as well, is constantly on the go. But then I generally take meetings from 7 a.m. to 3 p.m.
Okay.
And so, granted, there's usually like a day or two that we'll have post hours. But the reason why I did that is I really wanted to be present for family, for kids, and also we tracked my energy levels of, okay, when does Brian become less effective for clients, but also just less excited?
How do you track that? Do you have like an Aura ring or something?
I wish it was that simple,
Oh.
but for me it was much more of a. You ever get that sense of like your eyes start to feel heavy and
Sure.
your body's starting to ache a little bit? I would always track like when am I initially getting that feeling, and usually it was around 3:30. And so for me, it's okay if I can get all of my meetings done with clients from 7 a.m. to 3 p.m. That doesn't mean that I can't answer an email or answer a text after that, but you really want to be at your core energy levels when you're at your best.
Sure.
And so that's how we've modified it now. But admittedly, it's been a blessing because now we're working a lot less and a lot more efficiently than we ever have, and it gives me a lot more time to be present with the kiddo. Now it's Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. I'm kiddo duty at home, so sometimes you may see my daughter Brooklyn jumping into a Zoom meeting with us, but then it's hard for clients to tell her no in meetings. So I think that's increased our ability
Conversion,
to folks. Yeah.
Hey man, you got to use what you got,
Yep.
right? That's great. Excellent. Well, I appreciate you you sharing that story, because that's I'm sure a lot of people have gone through that, right?
Yeah.
There's probably our biggest audience is real estate agents that watch this. And there's certainly a lot of newer agents and a lot of agents that got in 2019, 2020, saw this massive boom. Then all of a sudden everything went away. It's like, gosh, what is happening right now? And I'll tell you, me going through this for 24 years, certainly dealing with 2008 to 2012 as being a major challenge for our family and our entire industry. And you can imagine. Yeah. We're in a tough battle right now, and I think we're going to get out of it in the next 6 months. But the reality is we don't know.
Mm-hmm.
It's as tough today, like right now, as I've probably seen it in the last 3 years.
Mm-hmm.
Interesting enough, we're having a great month this month, but all of a sudden leads have just died. Interest rates have come down. However, like
interest
buyer
is,
leads, buyers are nervous, I think, about the economy. Ultimately, I think that's what the problem is.
Sure.
It doesn't matter what the interest rate is if you're worried about your job.
Yeah.
And so hopefully we'll get to turn around through this by the end of the year. But again, I think what I was going with that is, if you're in this business, whatever business it is actually, right? If you don't feel 100% committed to it, then you need to give yourself a period of time if you want to stay in it and be 100% committed. And that time frame, you gave yourself 2 to 3 years, right? And I think that's a pretty good amount of time, depending on your age and your ability, to do that. Whatever the time needs to be, but go all in.
Yeah.
I will tell you, I personally went through some struggles and my whole team and I have talked about this. 2024 was a rough, just mental year for me. Because we went through COVID, had massive, just massive growth that we'd never dreamed of. And then all of a sudden we grew our team to, we had 11 people on the team.
And it almost feels like it's the norm. Like, hey,
you believe it is until it's not, right? And you're like, oh crap. So last year was just tough, and I had to recommit this year. I never had any interest in getting out of the industry or business, but I had to recommit not only for myself and my clients and my partners, but mainly my team. They needed to see that the old Michael, not this short-term new Michael that was there last year. So glad we were able to commit to that. And this year we've had certainly a
great.
better year and a tough year, but and some great things have been happening for us that we're really excited about for the near term and long term. So, but definitely make that commitment. Let's talk a little bit about kind of you've certainly talked in the past about comprehensive financial planning. Let's talk about what that means to you and to potentially your clients.
Yeah. So the phrase I think actually gets thrown around too often in the sense of even just the title, like financial advisor. What does that actually look like for folks? Because you've got the certified financial planner designations. There's like 200 different ones out there, and every single one has a different specialty. What most people think comprehensive financial planning is outside of the actual industry is normally they say, hey, I'm going to give you my money, invest it, and I'm going to call you a couple times a year and look for my rate of return. And then maybe every once in a while, if I have some questions, I'll ask you, right? So it's very much like an order giving. And that relationship is not comprehensive planning. That is a money management relationship where the only reason why you're calling them is to see if your money went up. And you're probably going to fire that person every single time the stock market goes down, right? But that's not a plan. Like that's just a bunch of accounts. And we see this all the time, especially for folks in the second half of their careers where that's where they grew up, because that's what the industry was 30, 40 years ago. And so when I'm working with somebody in a comprehensive financial planning mode, it first starts with, how do you define financial success, right? What does that look like? Are you a person that wants a ton of money, not wants a ton of money? Where does this go? What things do you want in between short-term, medium-term, and long-term? How does your family situation affect that? Because if mom and dad are sick, guess where mom and dad are going to look for money? You, right? Nobody's going to want their mom and dad to be on the street.
Sure.
And so you need to factor that into your planning. How does your professional career go, right? Do you like what you're doing? Do you not like what you're doing? Is this a stepping stone to something else? And so before we even get to the point where we're making a suggestion on a particular account, there's a vision building process. When you actually get to the account process of, okay, let's get tangible recommendations on the board, it's diving into estate planning, working with somebody's attorney on wills, trusts. How do you line the assets up to make sure that money is going to the right people at the right times for the right reasons and the right accounts? How does investment management work, not just now, but when you're getting ready to take money out? On average, the stock market goes down 1 out of every 4 years. How have you planned for that, right? Because if you are the person that is concerned about your investment accounts when the stock market is down, you do not have a plan. You just have an investment account.
Mm-hmm.
That's all you have, right? How do you think about insurance planning? Just because insurance exists, whether it's life, disability, long-term care, health insurance, it doesn't mean that you have to buy insurance. It just means that if you passed away, what money is needed, for what reason, for what people, and how much is that need? Do you have that money already set aside? Would you rather offload the risk to an insurance company? And similarly, if you lose your job, right? What plan do you have if you have decreased revenue for 6 months, 12 months, 18 months? What does that look like so that every single one of these situations relate to your taxes, right? How much of taxes are you paying now when your account is growing and when you're ultimately using your money, and relating that all together? So there's a ton that goes into it, but I think people oftentimes think that comprehensive planning is in belts. Like, okay, I'm going to do my insurance planning here. I'm going to do my money planning here. I'm going to do my tax planning here. And then what we often see is none of those relationships communicate. None of those relationships communicate. And then you just have a bunch of stuff, a lot of confusion, a lot of stress. And so what we try to do is say, okay, I'm not a CPA, I'm not a JD, I'm not an attorney, but let's build your plan. Let's know what we need to do for all these different categories, and then let's coordinate with your actual professionals, like proactively reach out. There's something that I even appreciate about you, Michael, when we connected, is that your guys' communication's awesome with your team. And you guys are willing to sit with our clients and work with us. And we said, all right, what's a mortgage somebody can afford? What's a house somebody can afford? How much in assets do you have? How is that going to affect your retirement planning? So few people are taking the time to do that. Most people are just buying a house and just hoping that they have enough money to afford it.
Yeah. I mean, I would say 95%, right?
Yeah. I mean, it's all the time.
It's a crucial, piece of the puzzle. And when we're meeting with clients, right, that's part of the things that we're talking to them about is, do you have a financial advisor? If they do, I'm always just asking, like, how would you rate your financial advisor?
Mm-hmm.
And it's usually either like a 10 or it's like,
Yep.
you know,
It's either you love them or,
it's
hey,
usually
we're
not
ignoring
like,
their
it's
calls
like a
every year.
7,
Yeah.
like, or a 10, right? Nobody like, it gives them a 1. They would fire them at that point, right? Um, and so I always ask, okay, great. What makes them a 10? And then they were very happy to tell you, right? Or, what makes them 7? They're just as, it's like, just, I don't hear from very often, whatever. And so a lot of times, right, I'll get the financial advisor involved in the discussion, because so many people sometimes, especially that have money, that don't necessarily pay attention to all those details of that. They just think interest is bad. I need to put as much down as possible on this house. And that may be the right decision. But I don't know their long-term plan.
Yep.
Right. So I definitely like to get the financial advisor, if they have a good relationship with their financial advisor, I want to get the financial advisor involved to help them make that decision. Maybe they should pay cash for the house.
Yeah.
Maybe they should, put down 20 or 30% instead of 50%. And so, we want to work together to find that solution.
Well, that too, and you've probably even felt this as well. Like so many clients just immediately attribute like debt just being a bad thing. Like this country is run on debt. There's no more indebted thing than the United States government. And so
in the world,
debt,
in the planet.
while unstructured debt with no plan can be bad debt. We can all agree on that concept. But it's very common that people use debt to get to destinations faster so that they can leverage their money and say, okay, if I'm not emptying all my money in my left pocket and I'm just using a portion of my money in my left pocket, it allows more money to be in my right pocket so that I can do more with less and get to destinations faster.
Leverage is there for a reason, right? It also spreads risk.
Yep.
Personal risk anyway. So
absolutely.
Excellent. Well, I appreciate you sharing what that means for you, comprehensive financial planning, because I think, ultimately it's part of how we met, right? You were helping advise your clients on what mortgage strategy to go with.
Yeah.
And they talked to a few different lenders, and you felt like the one we provided them was the most comprehensive as well. So, excellent. So certainly in your business, and we'll probably wrap up here in just a little bit, but in your business, trust is obviously a big word, right?
Yeah.
People are literally giving you hundreds of thousands of dollars in many cases, if not millions of dollars, to invest. And so tell me how you go about building that trust. I think you probably already kind of led into some of that by asking the right questions, but tell me how that happens for you, especially, let's be real, at your age, right? I think it's naturally got to be, I'll tell you, the first time you and I met for breakfast, I was sitting there thinking, what does this kid know about? I'll be honest with you, right?
Of course. But it's very natural.
During that conversation, I could tell very clearly that you were well above, your knowledge is well above a typical person that's, had your life age experience anyway.
Sure.
So tell me how you go about earning trust.
So I think a lot of it actually comes before you're even speaking with somebody, right? What kind of, I don't know who told me this quote, but it's, a lot of the deals that you even work with clients are actually done before you even get into the meeting, because it's the research you do on the client before they even talk to you. So,
or the way you're referred.
Yeah, that too.
That's
right?
a huge part.
It's, hey, when I got introduced to you, right, you take the extra time to say, okay, tell me about this person, right? What do they do for work? What's a good fun fact about them, right? Something to break the ice. You were introduced me to somebody I don't know, right? How can we make things fun immediately, because it's just an awkward conversation, right? What are some things I should know about them? Have they had any bad experiences with people in the financial planning world, right? How do we know that in advance to make sure that we're not making the same mistakes as somebody else that's maybe talked to them and it really turned them off? And then admittedly, I do a ton of research on people. I'll look them up on Instagram, LinkedIn, Facebook, and say, okay, what do they like to do for fun? Where have they worked? Are they job hopping? Or are they a person that stays at one company? Like how do they function, so that by the time we're even getting in front of them, I know more about them than probably a lot of their friends do.
Sure.
About their situation.
You stalked them a little bit.
I mean, I feel like it's like a necessary stalking,
yes.
now, right? Because when you're
it's a research more
when
than
you're
it's
building a relationship with somebody, like you're almost entering into a marriage per se. Like I don't want to bring on a client that's going to fire me in 2 years and vice versa, right? You want to work with somebody that you're going to work with for 35 years and build a really tight relationship together. And so I think that part's important, to do your homework before you even speak to somebody, so that you can bring immediate relevance early in the conversation, right? Shouldn't have to talk with somebody for 45 minutes for them to realize you know what you're doing, right? Most people make a decision on if they're going to hire an advisor in the first like 10 minutes. of a call, based off of your nonverbals, so how you come across, and your confidence.
Yeah.
And so that confidence factor, I think, is so key in building trust, because to me, I'm going to share everything I have about my own finances, my own personal situation with somebody, oftentimes before they even share with me their stuff, because they're wondering too, hey, is this financial advisor that I'm talking to financially successful?
Yeah, that's a
And then
great
they
point.
look at my net worth at 28 and they're like, okay, I'm going to listen, you know? And so when you're building trust, you have to do what you say you're going to do, and you got to be consistent. And so I've worked with some clients now for 6 or 7 years, and I don't think we're doing anything that's absolute rocket science. We're listening, we're calling them every single year. We're not reactively responding to situations. We're proactively reaching out and saying, hey, have you thought about the Beautiful Bill Act? What changes come from that? Hey, have you thought through, I know you're going to change your career here in 2 years. Let's start talking about tax strategy of when you do leave, so that by the time you make that call, you already know what you need to do. And then even just little things, like we do random gifting throughout the year where it's, hey, we're thinking of you. There's no particular reason why I'm reaching out to you other than just, I want to tell you I appreciate you. I remember 3 years ago when you told me your dog's name was Tucker, and I wanted to send you a dog collar because I thought it'd be kind of cool in case you'd like that. I think those little tiny things really build the trust and rapport, because what it's psychologically telling somebody is they listen to me, they understand me, they get me, and they know what's important to me. And when they have all of those factors, the finances and the managing the money is actually the easy part.
Sure.
Because it's just a result of the relationship you've already built together.
Yeah, I agree. You know, people in the mortgage side, people get so worked up about an eighth of a point in interest rate, or, you know, a few $100s on the closing cost sometimes. And the reality of it is, you know, the market's going to move up and down regardless, right? It's kind of like paying a stock price. Now, obviously, you wouldn't want to spend more money than a stock is worth when you're buying it for the heck of it, right? But at the end of the day, it's going to change. It's going to go up and it's going to go down. Same thing with interest rates. And so ultimately, you know, we're looking for clients, and it sounds like very similarly, we're looking for clients that value the information, expertise, and the experience that we give them, right? More that's more important than, as you said, you know, your grandmother's like, fees were out of the question at this point. This guy understood what we were looking to do.
Yep.
And I'm going to trust that the fees are going to be within reason.
Well, that was one thing I wanted to add to what you just referenced is, if you're looking to work with a professional, like telling this professional, like, hey, I'm just looking for the highest rate of return, yada, yada, yada. Like, you should not work with a professional if that's what you're looking for. You're not going to get that out of the relationship. It is a ticking tax time bomb, or even fee time bomb, that you are eventually going to explode, right? That screams to me that you have not found value in this particular service, and that's okay.
Sure.
Right? Shouldn't mean that you hire somebody, but I'll give you a very specific example of somebody where I could tell instantly the relationship changed, because you're solving problems before they even know they exist. Right? So we were looking at somebody's 401k, and 401ks have 3 options that you can tax it as: Roth, pre-tax, and after-tax. Roth is taxed now, pre-tax is taxed later, and after-tax, depending on how you use it, can be taxed now and later. Well, client that we were talking to, I looked at his statement, and he had everything in after-tax. Now, after-tax can be very common if you're working with somebody that's making $300,000, $500,000 plus, but not so common with somebody making less. I asked him, why'd you decide to choose that? He's like, oh, I wanted all my money taxed today. Oh, that's Roth. Why didn't you choose Roth? And he said, well, what do you mean? So he had been getting double taxed on his 401k for over, I think, 3 or 4 years.
Wow.
Before we even chatted. Now, fortunately, we fixed the problem, but you have to wonder, if we had never called him, if we never had that conversation, and he never took a conversation with anybody, that is a multi-$100,000 mistake.
Yeah.
And so we have a very, very tight relationship. He's a great guy, and he's never asked me about fees ever.
Sure.
Because that was you've pretty much paid for your fee for the next 45 years piece of advice. That's the kind of relationship you want to have with your teams, is they're helping you think through problems that you can't even conceive exist yet, because they've seen enough situations to know what kind of pitfalls that you're going to incur.
Yeah.
And I think that's something that you guys do a great job of as well, and why we had such a good experience even with the people that we worked with too.
I appreciate that. We're going to wrap up here, but you mentioned something earlier that really caught my attention the last time you were at my office, and I'm glad you brought it up, because I definitely wanted to hit on it as much as you're able to do so.
Sure.
the big beautiful bill.
Yeah.
You've talked about how there's some real opportunity there. What do people need to be thinking about that maybe they have no idea?
So it's a huge, huge bill. I think it's like over 200 pages
It's
at this
in
point.
the name of it.
Yeah. So
Big.
I've read through it a couple of times on that end. And the nice thing to know is for non-business owner, non-kid having families, there's not a whole lot in there that's changing your situation. Very minor tweaks, but most of the changes were for business owners and people with kids. For anybody that's having kids between now and I think it's the end of 2028, the government's giving you $1,000 towards an education-based account that you can only use for your kid, and they can use not just for education, but a first house, some of those other big purchases, starting a business in their life. Right now, we don't know how that money's going to actually get to them. That hasn't been, very clear yet. But for somebody like me, they've just had a kid, right? You never know. That could be one of the factors that you now want to build into your financial plan.
I mean, the government hasn't determined how you're going to get the $1,000.
So we've assumed, now this is just me making an assumption, that it's almost going to be like back in COVID where they were sending IRS checks straight through people's bank accounts. The challenge is it's can't go to your bank account, right?
Yeah.
It's got to go to a financial institution.
You got to create a 529.
And so it's not just approving it through the IRS to actually pay out payments. They have to prove it through the actual brokerages like a Charles Schwab, a Fidelity, a Northwestern.
Got it.
And so that's really the challenge of going through a lot of extra hoops and hurdles. And that's why the money hasn't gotten here yet, because it does take a lot of requirements. But they increased, one of the big ones for business owners that's really nice is they increased the SALT deductions for state income taxes, where now the floor used to be you could deduct $10,000 of income taxes on your taxes you paid for the state of North Carolina on earned income. Now they raised it to $40,000.
Okay.
It's a huge change, especially for folks that are not an S corp, for example. Trying to think of others, but I mean the Big Beautiful Bill Act overall helped increase tax credits for parents, helped give parents extra money for their kids' education planning, helped business owners save on SALT taxes, and it just in general, I think there's a lot of good in there. But I also think there's a lot of things that if you don't know what you don't know where to start.
Sure.
And so we actually created, especially for a lot of the relationships that we have, a PDF that summarizes the entire bill and says, okay, for most situations, here's exactly what you need to know and why you need to know it, and a description of that. So specifically, like when I've worked with doctors, they changed a lot when it came to student loans. They actually got rid of some student loan programs completely. And so if you are a doctor, veterinarian, anybody that has a lot of student loans, be aware, evaluate your student loan payment program, because it might not exist in 3 years, especially if you're using the SAVE program, SAVE, which is one of the more common ones. But that PDF I found to be very, very helpful because it helps people much easier digest the information that they're getting.
That's great. Appreciate that. Let's end on kind of legacy. Where do you feel like, I mean, it's hard to even think about someone that's 28 talking about legacy, but you've now got your first daughter. And so that's when you start kind of thinking about things beyond you. So let's get an idea of kind of what you want your clients to think about you long-term, obviously your family as well.
That's a great question on the legacy side. I think there's twofold, professionally and personally, what I want to build. I'd say professionally speaking, every single year we are looking at how can we make the client experience better, more enhanced. Sometimes that's hiring more people and others. But if I'm really thinking about what legacy looks like there, it's we're putting people in a position that they are significantly better off with us in their lives than not. They consider us one of the most important people and or teams in their lives. And then on top of that, we're putting them in position that money is on a significantly lower totem pole of what stresses them out on a day-to-day basis. We all have so many things that we're constantly thinking about every single day. We did actually a little game once of how many different thoughts come in your head in 1 minute. And it was like, for some people, it was like 20 or 50 or 60 different things you're thinking about every single minute of every single day.
I feel like mine's probably 200.
I mean, it can get crazy.
The ADD is pretty crazy. Yeah.
And so for me, if we can build a really well-structured practice, to me, I'm probably not a 50 person team. I'm probably much more of like a 7 to 8 person team, just really, really great at our work and lower amount of clients to work with. If we can build that kind of great client experience where people aren't worrying about money as much, to me, that is a very successful business model. On the personal side, I'd say really the thing I want more than most is that when I'm thinking about my daughter or even our future kids, because we want to have two more, I want them to be proud of who dad is, not what dad does.
Hmm.
And so if I can continue to keep focusing on being a great husband, a great follower of my faith, a great dad, and just being present, being where your feet are, not having to sit there on the computer at 4 p.m., right? Actually being there present and playing with your kids, that to me is legacy. Because what it tells them is when they're adults and they're my age, and I can think about my parents, I love my parents to death because that was the thing they were great at.
Hmm.
They were great at being present. My mom was a teacher, my dad was a CFO, they had plenty of obligations, but I never had to wonder whether or not they were going to come home and be there for me in every single way possible. And if I can create a similar experience for my family, I think that'd be something I'd be pretty proud of.
That's fantastic. I appreciate you sharing that. That's amazing to even consider and think about again at your age. So thank you guys so much for listening and watching. For those of you are able to watch, please be sure and catch us on the next episode. And thank Brian so much for being here.
Of course.
See you guys very soon.
Absolutely.